a prepaid debit call from
Oh no.
An inmate at the correctional institution.
to accept this call, press 0.
So, welcome back to another episode of the Rant podcast. So today, I have a couple of questions for Jono based off of a conversation we were just having. My curiosity was piqued, and I just wanted to know about something that Jono called recidivism, and I ain't gonna
Recidivism.
lie. Yeah, I honestly didn't know. He said recidivism, and I'm like, "Yo, what is that?" I don't like. My reaction was like more wild, but I was like, "Yo, what is that?" And well, you could tell me about it, man. So
Yeah. So, well, first off, right, like the way that this conversation even started was just kind of me and
mm,
Caesar, shooting the shits. We're just talking, and I mentioned to him how, I was being pressed to get a job, immediately upon getting out of prison. Um, I had my PO breathing down my neck, telling me that, hey, you got to get this job because if you don't get a job soon, I'm gonna send your ass back, right? And it's like, whoa, wait. So like, you're gonna send me back because I haven't found a job, but you also are the same people that gave me the felony in the first place that is now, in the
mm,
that is the reason that I can't get a job, and so that becomes an issue. And so yeah, I brought up something to Caesar called recidivism. And recidivism is something that a lot of people aren't aware of, but it's just something that's very simple. But recidivism is essentially the act of a person repeating an undesirable behavior after they have experienced negative consequences of that behavior, right? So it's basically repeating, like being a repeating offender. Um, you know,
relapsing.
yeah, relapsing, right? And as you can see up on the banner, right, it says that it is also used to refer to the percentage of former prisoners who are rearrested for a similar offense, right? And that is problematic because you don't want to go back to prison, right? Like going back to prison is just genuinely not what we want to do. But it's something
What,
that,
you ain't trying to go back?
no, I'm not trying to go back, man. That place was trifling. You hear me? That
Uh,
place was trifling. And so, when you think about how it is that everything is essentially set up against you, right? It almost makes you feel like, as much as like rehabilitation should be the goal, right? It's not, right? Like the goal is not to be rehabilitated, because the true fact is that recidivism is what they want. They want you to go back, right? And Caesar, I mean, right before we started this discussion, I know Caesar had a pretty cool um some stats that'll really blow your mind.
yeah, man. So we put the chat or whoops. Um, Despite various prison reforms, the rate of recidivism in the United States is still an astonishing 70% within 5 years of release. So you're telling me that 7 out of 10 are within 5 years will go back to jail.
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
Crazy. And then honestly, man, you know what piqued my interest was just like and obviously I knew once you went to once you went to prison, like the felony just completely washes everything away, right? Off top, like we know that like getting a job, or at least like a job that's like um to the degree of your intelligence and your degrees and everything else that you got, weren't gonna match, right? Because most people who don't have a degree, a college degree, or anything else, man, like coming out there, most jobs won't hire them.
Yeah.
Like, and if they are, bro, it's a job that's like paying you maybe $10, maybe, it might be less than that for real. Cause most jobs aren't willing to hire someone that has a felony on their record.
Straight up. And it's not personal. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I be having to tell a lot of guys that I work with, and a lot of guys that I'm trying to, help get back on their feet, man. It's like, you think these companies don't want to hire you because they're just hating and all these other things. I mean, like, yeah, that too, but like the truth is that, like, it's not personal, it's business, right? Like if you have a business, right, and you have to hire people to work for your business, right? Naturally, you want the best candidates you can get, right? And you're gonna try to find any which way you can to completely eliminate, right, a large sector of people, right? It's kind of like with the weed out method. Like when you think of the weed out
Yeah.
method, naturally people who have committed crimes are just completely out of the picture, right? Like like if I'm a business owner and I'm someone that owns a business, then one of the first things that I'm going to do if I have a business is try to find exactly who I don't want to work there first, right? Like, and so it's easy to imagine why offenders and returning citizens are easily casted out immediately, right? Because you've proven that
Yeah.
you're willing to break the law. You've proven that that you're willing to commit crimes, and so to think that 7 out of every 10 men and women that come out of prison in the U.S. within 5 years are sitting back in a prison cell is a very
That's
telling is very telling of our society, man, and just how much we don't care about this problem.
yeah, right. Because the I guess the part that really got me was when you started talking about the fees you got to pay. You got to pay for your what you called it,
Supervision fee,
supervision. You got to pay for somebody to supervise you, bro. That's crazy.
crazy.
Like,
And then they
let
wonder
me
why
not
guys recidiv. I don't even know what the verb is, but right, they wonder why guys go back, right?
relapse. Yeah, why
Why
they
they
relapse?
relapse, right? Why recidivism is a thing, and it's real simple. You get out of that prison, you got nothing because you've been there for a long time, and then you're expected to get a job. You're expected to not only land this gig, but let it be. It has to be a gig that can support you enough to allow you to be self sufficient, right?
Yeah,
Because self
and pay
sufficiency,
their fees.
and you got to pay the fees, the supervision fees, just to be on supervision, right? Like y'all the ones making me be on supervision. And you're also the ones requesting that I pay you to be on supervision when you've also given me a felony that makes me getting a job almost impossible. And so
At least
thank
one.
God that
Yeah,
I have a college degree and that I was able to I had these things before I went away. So when I came out, right, I was a tad bit more desirable than most felons, in my similar situation, right? And that's a privilege that I have. But the truth is that not every guy that gets out of those prison cells, or every gal, right, men and women that get out of these prison cells and that are returning citizens, they don't have that safety net, right? They don't
yeah,
have something that can prove like, hey, although I may have committed this crime, I also got this piece of paper that proves that I'm capable of learning at a very high level, right? And so
yeah.
it breaks my heart, man. And like, a lot of people may not know this, right? Because I don't think we speak about this as much, but as much as we're entrepreneurs and as much as we're trying to get our own businesses up and going, right? I'm still working, right? And the reason I'm working is because I
Mhm.
have to work, right? Because being a young entrepreneur doesn't always mean that you're making money off the bat, right?
At
Like
least consistently.
at least not consistently, right? Like Caesar
Yeah.
can definitely be a testament to that, right? He went through those years of struggle, where the business maybe wasn't necessarily giving him the kind of
Yeah.
return he needed in the moment. And so, man, like I had to get a job. And so, and what I do is I actually work with people who are just coming home from prison, returning citizens, right? And one of the things that I always gotta stress to them is that listen, this journey isn't difficult, but it definitely ain't easy, right? Like the truth is you gotta sell yourself. You gotta give people a reason to want to hire you. And that's with anybody, right? That's anybody that's looking for a job. But
Yeah.
the only reason I'm really working this job is because, well, one, I came out to nothing, but two, if I don't have this job, that's another strike against me, another chance that I might get sent back to the slammer.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, like as you were telling me all the hurdles in front of you to like just keep yourself out, I just thought about just like, yo, like what it is for like a regular person just to like maintain life, right? You got rent, you got bills, you got transportation, food. Like those are just basic necessities, right? And I'm like, yo, and then you were mentioning how you had the surveillance fees, you had to pay your court fees, um, on top of anything else that like may be in a recurrence that you have to pay back to the state for your case, right? Like that, and again, I'm sure that the government or the state takes top priority before everything else, right? They want their money first, right?
Yeah,
Which
already.
is which is crazy. No, I remember again, as you were telling me, I was just doing the math. I'm like, yo, it's almost set up. It almost feels like they trying to like get you back in there. But like that's you. Hey, that's just me. But it's crazy. I was like, what? I was like, yo, you really want me to go back? I was like, if I just put myself in your shoes, I was like, yo, I would fail like off top. like I might go back. Right?
Not to mention that, right? I mean, and they do so many other
70%, 7 out of 10.
bro. I'm telling
Yo,
you, even when I was locked up, I would see dudes leave and then come back, and I'm just like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you like? How? Like, what's like? We just spent 2 years together. We're talking about how we're gonna get our lives together. You get out before I do, and then you're back before I leave. Like, are you kidding me? It used to break my
yeah,
heart, man. It used to break my heart. And you said something very something that I gotta address, right? It's almost like they're trying to do this, right? It's almost like this is on purpose, right? Like, bro, absolutely, bro. This is like this, no one is intended to really make it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's not the goal, right? The rehabilitation is not the goal. Recidivism
mhm,
seems to be the goal, right? Because they're doing a much better job of that than they
yeah,
are the opposite, right? But why? You got to ask yourself why, right? And it's the prison industrial complex,
yeah.
right?
And honestly, I'm looking up um like what is it that these states make? Like I want to see what this number is. Like how much do they make per body per person um
It's a lot,
i-
bro. It's
that's
a lot.
in
Like
prison?
if I'm not mistaken, all right, and this is just what I remember from my time being in there, but I believe that the state gives these prisons. So right, there's a reason that more prisons are being opened than schools, right? Especially in Ohio,
Yeah,
right? I can't speak for a lot of states, but I know that in Ohio, we're building prisons at a rate that's completely outnumbering the rate that we're building schools, right? And you wonder why, and it's because every one prisoner that I think every one prisoner that comes into a prison, the state gives that prison about $100,000, if I'm not mistaken, for the year.
bro. You might be right because look, I'm looking at the percentage. Let me see. I'm gonna drop the link, but I'm looking. It says the prison industrial complex. The private sector came to be seen as a quick fix to the problem of overcrowded, understaffed public prisons. Today, private prisons make up over 10% of the corrections market, turning over 7.4 billion a year. 7 point like that's what they're net profiting.
Why would anybody who's making that much money be incentivized to fix the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like nonprofits, right? Like there's a lot of places where nonprofits do good work, right?
Yo,
But
hold
then
on.
there's a lot of places where
I got
nonprofits do bad work.
I got some more stuff for you. Hold on. The average cost of incarcerating an American prison varies state to state. Um, says the prices for Indiana are 14,000 per inmate, while in New York it's like 60,000 per person.
That
So when you,
the prison gets from the state, right?
yeah, because
And that's
that's the cost, right? So like it went from because basically what happened is the state outsourced holding prisoners. So instead of them having to maintain everything, they just pay. Again, it says in the state of Indiana, they've been able to maintain it at 14,000 per prisoner. So how?
I think the number might be higher in Ohio, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you see what
probably.
it is
Those are just the quick numbers.
Yeah, and it's just from state to state, but that's my point. How can you be incentivized to fix the problem when the problem is essentially what's paying you, right? Like the people at the individuals that own these prisons, the individuals who are invested in this complex, right? Why would they be incentivized to fix a problem when your paycheck is contingent upon the problem? It doesn't make any sense. And that's why the stat is so staggering. 7 out of every 10 people that leave prison end up reoffending and going back to prison within 5 years, right? And I could have just as easily been one of those numbers, and technically I'm still within that time frame. But the truth is that I'm
Yeah,
not going to make the same mistakes I did before, right? Luckily for me, right? I'm going to be the first person to admit it. I got a wonderful support system, right? I got wonderful, friends, family, my fiance, you know what I mean, my partner. I have people who are willing to look out for me and make sure that I don't get there again. Of course, naturally, I don't want to go there either, and I'm not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize my freedom because that's one of the lessons that I learned upon being incarcerated. But there's a lot of people out here who aren't mature enough, who haven't had the resources, the mental health help that they need, right? And then these people have problems to begin with. They were then incarcerated where that problem wasn't fixed. If anything, it was perpetuated. When you go to a prison, no one's looking out for you. These prisons aren't doing anything other than letting you rot in a cell for so many years that you have to do. And
I
then
mean,
when you're
that's no. Go ahead, sorry. You was
no,
going hard.
I'm literally ranting, right? Like I'm like the basis, right? But like I'm saying that you these people come in broken. While they're there, they get even more broken, and then they're released out into society with these expectations that, just to be frank, they can't meet because they're jacked up, due to the things that I just said.
Yeah.
You're being released, and mind you, you're more broken than you were before because prison will break you. You know what I mean? Like, it does something to you if you ain't ready for it, and nobody's really ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. Had it not been for the fact that I'm 6'3", 280 pounds, and played football for some big university, I might not have had the easiest time in there. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit here and just ignore that. I had, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not even saying that I had it easy, but the point is that nobody was really trying to press me. Nobody was really trying to test me, right? Like, I had moments where I had to defend myself. I had
Yeah.
moments where I had to, really do some things that maybe I wasn't too proud of. But the truth is that I wasn't dealing with that as often and as consistently as pretty much everybody else. And so, man, when you think about all that, bro, like, it's easy to see why this problem ain't going nowhere, especially not as long as that kind of money is on the line for certain individuals in this country.
Yeah. No, and then again, that's why being institutionalized is a thing, right? Like, it's almost like you've created someone that's dependent on being comfortable in a space that's like uncomfortable, because
Yeah.
being in the real world is a lot harder, because now you quote unquote become an and even in the caption it says undesirable, right? You basically come undesirable to society, to whatever is going to keep you out of going back, right?
Yeah.
Which again, I mean, look, I'm not trying to take away, right, from the fact that people did crime, right? What they did is what they did. They need to do the time. They can stay there as long as they need to, right? As long as it's like within the time frame of what their crime. You do the crime, you do the time, right? So that's not the thing that we're harping on, because I think a lot of people confuse that sometimes, right? Like, it's not that I'm over here like, dang man, you got to give pity to these people, because you should know, like, they did their time because of a crime they committed. Now some of them are heinous than others, but the part that we're failing at is, what are we doing to make sure they don't do that again, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, right, we talk about wanting to lower the crime rate. We talk about um wanting to improve society at like a standpoint of just like human interaction. Well, the best way to lower crime is to help these rehabilitated people coming out of prison so they don't do it again, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. To actually do what prison is intended to do, to rehabilitate.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's if we want crime to go down, right? Because maybe that's not what we want. You know what I'm saying? But like, if I
Maybe
mean,
it
I'm
is
just
what we want, right? Like, maybe we love living in this, this modern day, nightmare of just, people going to prison just to come back out and be worse than they were when they went in. You
look.
know,
I gotta say it, man. I mean, I look, like, I say it like that because I'm being sarcastic, but at the same time, like, yo, what are we doing? Like, you can't tell me you want something and then completely just whiff in the space that would completely actually help. Now,
yeah.
not everybody's fixable, but I'm sure a good percentage of those people don't want to go back, man.
Yeah. And
Right?
to that point, bro, and I appreciate you saying that, because it is true, right? We're not here saying that, people don't deserve to be in prison. We're not here saying that people don't deserve to do time for some of the crimes that they commit. Absolutely, man. That's exactly what should be happening, right? I mean, people should be paying consequences for their actions, especially when those actions are illegal, right? Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But what are we doing with these people once they're incarcerated, right? Because right now, I can tell you from personal lived experience that it is not working, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? This I seen this with my own eyes. Guys are in there doing everything but rehabilitating, right? Like, I mean, there's more drugs in prison that than you could ever imagine because the drug market in prison is insane. You know what I mean? Let's speak about marijuana because it's legal in a lot of places, right? And it might be federally legal here soon, right? But marijuana in a prison is 5, 6, 7, 8 times the value of what it goes for on the streets, right? And so that why on earth would someone again be incentivized to want to stop this when there's so much money being made in these prisons, everywhere from illegally to legally, right? Like, and so that will put you know what I mean? Like that's what's happening here. No one has any incentive to stop this. There's too much money in it. There's too much money in it, man. And so like and people just ain't, like Caesar said, bro. They're not incentivized to rehabilitate. They're not.
Maybe it's not, again, maybe it's not what we want to do, right? Like, I guess the part, and that's the part where I'm like, yo, if you're gonna act like we want to do this, let's act like it. But like, don't pump fake me. Like, don't act like you're interested in, like, and again, just be honest. And I guess that's the thing with me. Like, if that's the space we want to be in, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just need to know what I need to be prepared for.
What
Like,
you need to be prepared for, right? As citizens of this great nation, right?
yeah,
And listen, man, like let me just tell one quick story, man, because this really
go ahead.
hits home and it's close to my heart. But you know, I, when I came out, I was lucky enough to be employed, by an agency that helps, people that are returning home, and and a lot of their special work is on, making sure that ex-incarcerated people can maintain self-sufficiency, right? So I work with 18 to 24-year-olds as a case manager at this place, right? And this is the job that I ended up finding, upon getting out of prison, to avoid getting in trouble with my parole officer, right? And so, anyways, I'm working at this place, and I see people come in all the time, and I see people recidivate. Reci- I see people go back all the time. Again, I don't know what the actual verb is for that.
Relapse. Just say
Relapse.
relapse.
You can just say
Yeah.
relapse, right? But yeah,
Hmm.
but people who return, right? They end up going back. Now, man, I had this one young lady, and of course, confidentiality. I can't say much more than that. But I did have a young person who came into the agency, man, and they were going through it. They had just gotten home. They got nothing, right? Like 9 times out of 10, you end up in prison in the first place because you ain't got no social support. You ain't got no one that gives a damn about you, right? You've probably never had someone in your life telling you anything positive, right? Like these things all contribute to the fact that, this person went to prison in the first place. And now this person comes home. She's trying to get by, right? She's trying to find a place to stay. She can't make no money because no one's willing to hire her. On top of the fact that she doesn't even have a lot of these transferable soft skills that you really need to get hired in the first place because she comes from a rough spot, right? And she was raised by rough people. And I mean, there's all the chips are stacked against this person, right? And then she comes to me and she says, "Why? Like, what's stopping me from just wanting to go back?" Right? She's like, "Because right now, I'll tell you this: in there, I got 3 hots and a cot. I don't got to pay no bills. I get fed, blah blah blah." But the truth is that, man, what do I say to this young person in that moment? Oh no, stick it out, blah 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 blah. I mean, I told her, I was like, I had to have a real moment with her where I was like, I see why you think that. I totally get it. And it makes sense. It reads like, you know what I mean? Like I understand, but like I had to convince this person that like things are kind of nice out here. And it's a lot nicer out here than it is in there, but you wouldn't know that because you've never left the very place where you were born. Right? Like you came home, went straight back to the same neighborhood with the same people doing the same thing. She just don't know better. She doesn't know any better. And a lot of people come out of these prisons with that same story. They just don't know any better. And it's a problem. I don't have the solution. Well, I do. I wish we could. I wish we could maybe make our prisons a lot like they do in those Scandinavian countries over in Europe, right? Where yeah, the prisons are set up a little bit more like hotels and things like that, but that's because you're reminding these people that they are human, right? Giving someone some carpet is a big psychological advantage to giving someone no carpet. Having the toilet in the same room that you sleep in, animals don't sleep where they shit, but they got humans doing it here. A dog. That's why crate training a dog is so efficient, because even dogs know that I shouldn't shit where I sleep. You know, bro, the
That's
goal.
that's crazy. I mean, again, the little last tad bit, but it goes back to, I mean, what I was saying, man. It being institutionalized is it's almost like it's a part of the game, right? Like, and again, the part that really messes with people's minds is they get dropped off back where it's like, if you play video games, bro, like, and you forgot to save your last checkpoint, and you just got to start over from like the, you know what I'm saying? You lost
Yeah,
all that time,
all
bro, and then you're
progress.
like, and again, those soft skills is what matters at the end of the day, right? Like, if you want these people to um move forward, soft skills, shoot, or even, I don't know what we consider hard skills, bro. There's a lot of manual labor stuff that if you just train people, you got them for 5-10 years, bro. Like, what are we doing other than just like like you said, making them feel like an animal, and pushing around whatever institutionalized like programming that's going on in
Yeah.
prison, right? Like, I know there's a certain culture in jails, right? Like, what are we doing to combat that? Or is it just like, yo, we throw them in the fire pit, and then hopefully they come back out cooked,
Listen, yeah,
hopefully they don't get burned. And
like that's all I'm saying, man. Is like, if only we could just, you know, just make that place a little more of a learning environment. You know what I mean? Make that place more of a little, make it a healing environment, man. But they got the money, and I say they, they can be,
loosely.
I use they loosely, but there's people making decisions. There's people who control these budgets. There's people who have, again, no incentive in the world to do better. But if only
Yeah.
they did, we'd have a much better society, man. Because there's not that, I mean, a lot of these people in these prisons, man, they could be a lot better off if they just had a little bit of some decent help. And that help starts right there in those prisons, man. It starts right there in those prisons.
Yeah, I mean, they got him there. Like,
Yeah.
again, if rehabilitation is not what we're trying to do, bro, like, let me know what's up. Let these people know, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? At least be upfront with them.
Be up
Like,
front.
let's not play this charade. Like, that's the part where I'm just like, I'm not even going through it, but like, at least be upfront with us, with
Yeah.
them. Like, they're the ones dealing with this. Like, yo,
You
let
know,
them know.
let us
But
know.
but it goes back to that like false hope pretext, right? Like, you want to give people false hope so they fall in line. At least that's what I feel like, right? At
Yeah.
least that's the reason why I don't like it. Like, you're dangling a carrot that leads to nothing, right? Like, because like their freedom is, people look forward to getting out, but then, like you said, bro, like they immediately realize that getting out, it wasn't it,
Mhm.
which is crazy. Like, it's
It's
wild.
jacked up. It's jacked up, man.
Yeah, the
You know,
the type of mental game the system is playing with these people is so crazy,
yeah.
right? But I mean, I digress, right? I think that's something that just needs to be. I felt like we needed to talk about. It needs to be a light needs to be shined on that. There needs to be so we have awareness months for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we really looked up at the amount of people that can't are in the incarceration system and are coming out, that number is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have mental health month, we have suicide prevention month. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of these things kind of fall under that like institutionalized like awareness, right? Like, where you're not really knowing what drove somebody to like commit suicide or have really bad mental health, right? Like,
Yeah.
those are just like the the cool tags to like being aware of something, right? Like, no one really wants to talk about like reform or incarceration or
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, right? I
Exactly.
mean, but again, I digress. I feel like this is a
You're right, right? And like right now, maybe right. We're not necessarily saying that anything. We're not proposing anything, right? It's awareness, right? It's just putting it out
yeah.
there.
I'm just,
It's
what I'm
happening.
saying.
It's happening, right? And the one thing I just want to, encourage anybody that's listening to this is like, hey man, give give people who are just getting out of that kind of situation a little more grace, just a little bit, right? Like, again, and I say a little bit because a lot of those people are effed up. A lot of those people are jacked up, and a lot of those people are evil, right? Whatever. I mean, an evil, right? It's a lot of people have
However you want to.
however you want to define that. But the truth is that they've also been through something rough, something rough, and something that wasn't anything like what people expect it to be. And so I don't know, man. Like a lot of times, like a lot of like right now, nobody wants to work, but you got this whole class of people sitting here who have every bit of motivation in the world to prove you wrong as to why they should be hired, right? You got a whole workforce of people out here just sitting there with nothing to do because you won't hire them.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people who just came out the joint will work a little harder for you than someone who's fucking privileged and never been through nothing challenging in their lives in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just me, man.
TikToking their way through life,
TikTok and they had no views. They ain't got nobody following on TikTok, but they dropping 8 TikToks a day. You feel me? Like, like ain't getting no views, son. None. And the only people viewing them is them. They watch- oh, here's my TikTok again. You see what I did, mom? Another view, right? And it's you,
bro.
I'm just saying, man.
No, you're right. So,
hey, man. Well, listen, this conversation was really important to me, man, and I'm glad that we got to have it. Again, like anything else, I just want to give the quickest shout out to our good friends over at Awaken Koala for sponsoring today's episode of Rant. Just like every other episode of Rant they sponsored. Awaken Koala, you can reach them at their website, which is the website. Go ahead, give it to us, C's.
awakenkoala.com for your branding services and needs.
That's right. And so we've come to that point in the episode, right, where we got that 1 minute rant. All right. Mm-hmm. So let's get it going.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I'll start today, man. So my rant is real simple, man. I hate greed. I hate greed for money. And as much as money's important, and I'll be the first one to admit how important I think money is. But to be greedy about it and to want it so bad that you're willing to hurt other people just ain't it. It don't make a lot of sense, and it really hurts, and it really hurts, and it sucks that humans, we've come to a point where money and the greed for money, can sometimes be more important than the health and wellness of your fellow humans, your fellow citizens, your neighbors, man. We're not just on this planet tolerating each other. We're on this. We got to coexist, and when you're helping someone, I prefer to have someone on the up and up when they run into my family members, right? That's the way that I think about it. That's why I'm willing to help people in the community. That's why I'm willing to help people who may not have the voice to help themselves, is because I'm hoping that maybe one day when you just happen to run into someone that I love, that they don't meet the worst version of you, and that they instead are meeting a version of you that's coming up and doing better. So stop putting money first. We need to take money out of a lot of things, including politics. That's my rant.
My rant for today, man, is it's crazy out here. Like, it's real crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to pay, I don't want to pay attention to. There's a lot of stuff that I need to pay attention to. Banks are going under, people are getting invaded in Ukraine. Freaking rent is going double, like it's just a bunch of craziness, right? So for me, man, like I think we mentioned this before, like sometimes as unplugging, I always recommend to unplug. Go get a fresh air, man. Go walk around, like do something that, and I'm sure I mentioned this before, man, but I think the simplicity of just like taking a step back and not letting the daily tasks, the daily burdens of just like, as an adult, we got all these things we got to look at and make sure, maintain, right? Man, just go outside, get off that phone, stop TikToking. I'm not good at it, you're not good at it. Like go do something, you know what I'm saying? Like get off that phone, bro. Like the only thing on there is like stress, and that you need to work out more, because everyone's not built like your favorite bodybuilder, whoever you follow, or whoever model you follow. Like, nah, bro, like that's not real life. Go outside and enjoy yourself.
And enjoy yourself. And guys, with all of that being said, we just want to thank you all for coming again to the Rant podcast. Right, you can find us on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I believe iHeartRadio.
Mhm.
But you know, we're gonna have some more special content coming your way. And with that being said, rant out.
Rant out.